Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Recommended Reads Report, brought to you by the Flying High English Hub and myself, Gareth Baker. Now, the purpose of these videos, if you've never seen one before, is for me to give you a complete plot breakdown of the latest novels so that you can decide whether you'd like to read them to your class, and so you can recommend them to children, parents and carers if you don't perhaps have quite enough time to read the whole book for yourself before doing so. For this episode, I've got the fabulous Castle of Tangled Magic by the awesome Sophie Anderson. The Castle of Tangled Magic is Sophie Anderson's third book and continues to follow and delve into the realm of Slavic and Eastern European myths and legends. The first book, of course, was the critically acclaimed The House with Chicken Legs, which was a bit dark at places but a fabulous read. And then the second book was The Girl Who Speaks Bear, which had a whole new cast of characters but did feature a house with chicken legs at one point in the story. And for this third book, The Castle of Tangled Magic, once again we're introduced to a whole new cast of characters, but we do get to see a house with chicken legs again. So who do I think will enjoy this book? Well, it will be a great class read for years 5 or 6, and the beauty of it is that you don't need to have read the previous two to enjoy it. I think children who enjoy a good quest story, so like Abby Elphinson's Sky Song, if they really enjoyed that, they might also enjoy this. If your kids like animals, then many of the characters in this story are animals that can shapeshift into a sort of semi-human form. There's a lot to love about this book, and it's a lot of fun. Certainly not as dark as The House with Chicken Legs. I would definitely give this book 5 out of 5, and I'd really encourage you to read this book. Now let's find out a little bit more about the themes. This book is a really fun, light and breezy read to enjoy. Now, it does deal with some really great issues, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But one thing that I really enjoyed about this book is there's kind of nothing in it really that you may need to be aware of before you start reading. For example, many of the books that we've talked about before feature dead parents. Now, one of the things I really liked about this book is the really positive messages that came out of it. So one of which, of course, as usual, is friendship and sacrifice and trust. Those are sort of standard themes within a children's book. But what I really liked about this one was it talked about mistakes and how mistakes are learning experiences. I also liked the fact that it talked about the power of belief. In the book, Olia, the main character, can't see magic, although she vaguely remembers being able to when she was younger. And that's all because of the power of belief and how we can make things happen and good things happen when we truly believe. And then also, and I think this might possibly be something that you might want to discuss in class, is about undoing wrongs from the past. Which, you know, when we consider the summer and Black Lives Movement and the removal of statues and things like that, it's quite a topical theme. Now let's find out about the characters. The Castle of Tangled Magic has quite a large cast, so I'm just going to tell you about the main ones at the beginning, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the others when I give you the plot breakdown. So the main character is Olia. Her name is short for Magnolia, and she's actually, a long time ago, her family were royalty, which is why they live in a castle, but no longer. She loves art and she loves running and keeping fit, but one of her main sort of character traits is that she really feels it's important to do the right thing, and this becomes a big test for her character at several points through the story. She lives with her mama and papa and her baby sister Rosa, and her baby sister again is a major part of what drives Olia throughout the story, and her wanting to be able to share her love of the castle with her baby sister as she grows older. She also lives with her grandmother, Babuza, who, as typically in these stories, is kind of like the fount of all knowledge and the wise one. And she's the one that believes in magic and tells Olia all about the different spirits and things that live around the castle. Her best friends are Dinara and Luke. They live in the village down the hill, and they're twins and opposites, and really lovely characters and great fun. And sadly, they only appear at the beginning and right at the end, and I kind of felt that was a bit of a shame myself. And then the last main character is Felix. Now, Felix is a shape-shifting fox, and he has a special attachment to the castle, and this is really important for the plot later in the story. And he's obviously magical, and for years and years, Olia has been leaving salt behind the stove in the oven to feed him, and she has vague rememberings of seeing him when she was little, but she's not seen him for years. And then, as I'm sure you can guess, he turns up, and he's a part of the reason why the whole adventure begins. Now I'm going to go into the plot summary now, and I'm going to include some pictures, because one of the real strengths of this book is that there are pictures included. Not many, but I will include them in the video. Let's find out what happens in the story. Olia lives in an ancient castle made of wood. It belonged to her ancestors who were royalty, but now her parents are simple carpenters, and the castle hall is shared with the community. There are two stories as to how the castle was built. One with a magic axe which was then thrown in a lake, or two, that it was simply built by magic. Olia has spent her life trying to find this magic, and the search has now become more important to her because she has a baby sister. According to her grandmother, the castle was built by magic, and it is trapped inside, and if it doesn't escape, the castle will be destroyed. One day, while Olia and her family are in the kitchen, a violent blast of wind roars over the castle. There's a loud bang. Dad goes to the great hall to see what's wrong. Once he's gone, Olia hears a scuffling noise, and Babuza tells her that it's the Domovoi, a fox-shaped spirit that protects their home. Olia leaves some salt by the stove for it to eat, while the wind, a magical wind according to Babuza, batters the castle. Olia spots the Domovoi, which she's never seen before or really believed in. The next morning, when Olia awakes, Papa tells her the bang was a part of the sun dome falling into the great hall. It's a mess in there, and the feast the village were going to hold will have to be cancelled. Mama and Papa go to the village to tell everyone and forbid Olia from going into the great hall alone. Olia rushes down to the lake, where she's agreed to meet her friends Dinara and Luca. When she tells them about the storm, there wasn't one, not in the village anyway. They go into the great hall and discover a hidden staircase. The children agree that only Olia should go up there. She finds a chest which is tied up with golden chains and sparkling with magic. Suddenly the whole tower collapses, and as Olia falls, she sees a fox man reach out to grab her. She crash lands into Dinara's arms and finds the chest opened on the ground beside her. When they look inside, they find a hat with a silk lining. When Olia touches it, her fingers tingle. Babuza informs them another storm is coming, and she sends Dinara and Luca home. As soon as they are out of the way, Babuza tells Olia to get ready to battle the storm. To do this, she must go to her bedroom where she can see the Aurora Dome and use the hat, the key, to defeat the magic. But Olia doesn't understand. It's just a hat. Babuza tells her to put it back in her pocket, and when she takes it out next time, to make sure that she truly sees it. Suddenly there's a knock on the door. Hopefully it's Mama and Papa returning from the village. Olia opens the door to find the fox, who shapeshifts into a humanoid form. His name is Felix, and Olia suddenly realises she knew him when she was younger. They would play together, and he would repair things she broke or tore. He tells her they must travel to a magical land to save the castle from the storm, But when Olia was worried about her parents' safe return of Mebusa, Felix hands her a letter written by Mebusa herself, telling her she must go and that she will be safe. He also gives her a paper bag of food and some vials which grow in size as he removes them from his pocket. Together they step out into the storm and onto the roof of the castle. Using his shape-shifting magic, Felix helps Olia cross the roof and climb inside a tiny dome. Inside, Olia finds a magic keyhole. All she has to do is draw the key out of the hat. After some coaching from Felix, she reaches into the hat and pulls out a golden key and slides it into the lock. This magic power is called folding. Olia finds herself in a magic land, where she can actually see the magic as tiny golden threads. She asks Felix what they should do next, and he says they must go and speak to the cat, who is chained to a tree in the distance. Felix then goes on to explain the cat is actually a witch who helped create this land. As they travel past many sprites and miraculous sights, Felix explains that 500 years ago, fearing a war with a wizard called Chinomor, one of Olia's ancestors, Ludmilla, trapped all the sprites and other magical creatures and people here using the same hat that Olia had used to unlock it again. It's called the Land of Forbidden Magic. The cat, who's called Koshka, no longer trusts humans after what Ludmilla did to her 500 years ago. So Olia uses the magic hat to fold the chain and free the cat so that Koshka will see her as kind and trust humans once again. The plan works, and Koshka explains it's not only the castle, but their whole land that is in danger. To save them both, Olia must cut off Chichonor's beard. Koshka explains that the old wizard's beard holds his magic, and as it grows, it spreads throughout the land. But to cut it off, she'll need armour and the giant sword, which only someone of royal blood can use. As they continue their quest, they come across two water sprites. One is a girl made of water, and the other is a giant frog-like human. They begin to fight. Olia rushes in to break them up, only to find herself grabbed by the frogman and dragged underwater. Just as she's about to drown, Olia is released, and then the water girl, called Cascadia, reappears, wondering why Olia tried to intervene. Cascadia joins them on their quest, and they pass into the fire dome. The ground is all burnt, and between it and the golden trails of Chichomor's beard are pieces of armour abandoned by spirits and sprites 500 years ago. Kitting Olia out, the band of heroes begin moving again, only to hear a terrible rumble, and then see a head 3 times as large as Olia appear out of the ground with owls in its beard. The sword Olia needs is under the giant head. His name is Golov, and he refuses to give it to her, saying she's no hope of beating Chichomor, who is his brother. Chinomor is not a giant though. Their parents are a wizard and a giant. Golov got the giant genes and Chinomor's the wizard. It was his brother who chopped off his head. He also thinks that Koshka should not be trusted. However, Golov agrees to help them, because beneath Chinomor's castle is magic water that can repair his body and put him back together again. If Olia gets it for him, he will make her magic key work again so she can get back home. The owls grab Golov by the hair and lift him up so that Olia can get the sword from under him. They continue travelling until they arrive at the base of the fortress. And it's here that Felix confesses that he hasn't come just to help Olia, but also to find his wife, Mora, who was banished here by Ludmilla all those years ago. They are interrupted suddenly by 2 arguing trees, one of which is an adult and the other is a child, but still much taller than Olia. Convincing them to stop, the smaller tree, who's known as Dub, joins Olia and her band of heroes, and he agrees to help them through a maze which they must pass through in order to get inside the fortress. Luckily, Dub knows a riddle that will help them make their way through the maze. Taking a wrong turn though, Olia finds a big stack of gold which turns out to be a trap. Luckily, she's escaped by Felix, who's riding a huge black winged horse. He takes her back to the others and they choose a different route, this time the correct one. But soon they have to make another choice through the maze and they get it wrong again. They're attacked by Villi, tiny winged creatures with bows and arrows, but luckily their leader is Mora, Felix's wife, who stops them. Mora gives Olia the water she needs to help Golov, as well as grants her more folding magic. She joins the group, but they have to leave Dub behind because he's too large to fit through the tunnels now. They leave the maze and climb the fortress steps, Olia cutting the magic strands with her sword. Arriving at the wizard's bedroom, they find a tiny, wizened old man in bed, surrounded by his magic beard. Olia has doubt. How could he have defeated Golov? Koshka encourages her to cut off the beard quickly before he awakes, but Olia is still filled with doubt. And that's when Chenomor awakes. And you can find out what happens next after this short interlude. So next, well, for the next video, episode 6, as promised, I'll be bringing you something that's perhaps a little bit more suited for your younger children, year 3 probably, maybe year 2, perhaps even year 4. But I'm thinking year 3, this would be a great book. That's Anisha, the Accidental Detective. So I'll see you next time. And if you'd like to find out the rest of the story, find out whether Olia manages to save the castle and the land of forbidden magic, then carry on watching. If not, I'll see you very soon for the next episode. Keep reading. Ta-ra! As soon as Chenomor awakes, the strands of his beard attack Olia and our band of heroes, binding them all up. Mora turns from her shrew form into a Villi and attacks the wizard, freeing Olia, who then slices off the wizard's beard, saving everybody. Chenomor has been defeated and his strands of golden magic have disappeared. So why is everything still shaking and falling apart? They quickly leave the fortress and are met by the flying horses and a house with chicken legs, the home of Dada Yaga, who offers them a lift back to the water dome so that Olia can return to her own world. On the way, they stop at Golov to use the waters of life and death that Mora gave them to reattach his head. In his excitement, Golov jumps around, opening a large chasm which everyone falls into, trapping them all apart from the flying horses who abandon them. Olia's only hope is to use the magic hat to fold the land so they can escape. As she tries, Chenomor arrives, flying on the back of a giant swan and demanding his hat back. After some debate and promises of help, Olia gives Chenomor his hat back, which he immediately uses to help them escape the chasm. It turns out his magic wasn't causing the cracks and rumbling, it was holding the world together. He apologizes for chopping off his brother's head, realizing it was a mistake. In fact, many of the things he did in the past he now sees were mistakes. Golov picks everyone up in his enormous hands and they head back to the secret door to Olia's castle. When they get there, Olia is forced to say goodbye to everyone and leave on her own, even though the other characters also want to return to our Earth, where their families are and whom they haven't seen for 500 years. Olia feels selfish, but the others cannot leave with her, or the magic will destroy everything. Then Olia has an idea. Can Chenomor use his magic hat to unfold all the magic and undo what Ludmilla did? He can do it, but Olia's castle home will be destroyed in the process. It's decided that Olia must go home alone and make sure that everyone is safe, so when the castle is destroyed and all the sprites are freed, Papa, Mama, Rosa and Babusha will not be put in any danger. Using her newfound belief in magic, Olia repairs the key and leaves the land of forbidden magic. Reunited with her Papa and Babusha, they go to the village to be reunited with the rest of the family and Olia's friends. Olia gives Babusha the vial of water and finds a note from Felix. In it, he asks Olia to take care of Mora, and she realises that Felix is part of the house, and if the house is destroyed, he can't come back. Olia tells her friends and family everything, and together they rush back to the castle. If they can save one part of it, even a tiny part, maybe Felix will be saved. On the way, Olia recruits Cascadia's mother and Dub's father, who carries them into the storm that now surrounds the castle in the safety of his branches. When they get to the castle kitchen, Cascadia's mum spreads herself onto the roof as a lookout, and Dub's dad wraps himself around everyone else and the stove. The sprites and creatures leave the land of forbidden magic and escape back to Earth through the winds, including Felix, who appears on the top of the stove. When the storm ends, everyone is safe, but only the castle stove remains. Finally, Olia and her family live in the house with chicken legs, while the village agrees to help build a new home for Olia and her family to live in.